The guide was also above, as you mentioned. Now, earlier today, speaking of demand, I was talking to Amazon CEO Andy Jassy. He told me that as of now, if he had more AI resources to sell through AWS, he could sell more. That's kind of the short-term signal of demand that you talked about on the call. Tell me more about the midterm signals that investors should be aware of that give you confidence in the continued demand, the scale outs of data centers, AI factories, relative to what you've historically seen.
The short-term signal are just our POs and the forecasts. And on top of that, the things that are not forecasted are new startup companies that are spinning off. And some of these are quite famous. And, you know, at the risk of forgetting any of them, I won't mention any of them, but there's some really, really fantastic startups that have come out as a result of new reasoning AI capabilities and, you know, artificial general intelligence capabilities that they have breakthroughs in. And there's several of them that are related to agentic AIs, really exciting companies. And there's several of them related to physical AIs. You know, there's just handfuls of each one of them, and each one of them needs additional compute. And that's, you know, the type of things that Andy talks about, because they need to go to AWS and they have urgent need for more compute right away. And so that's on top of what we already knew to have POs and forecasts and such. The midterm comes from the fact that this year's capital investment for data centers is so much greater than last year's. And of course, we had a very large year last year. We had a great year last year. It stands to reason that with Blackwell and with all the new data centers going online, we're going to have a fairly great year. Now, long term, the thing that's really exciting is we're just at the beginning of the reasoning AI era. You know, this is the time when AI is thinking to itself before it answers a question. Instead of just immediately generating an answer, it'll reason about it, maybe break it down step by step. It'll do maybe some searching in its own mind before it creates and composes a smart answer for you. The amount of computation necessary to do that reasoning process is 100 times more than what we used to do. So if you could imagine, we thought computation, the amount of compute necessary was a lot last year. And then all of a sudden, reasoning AI, DeepSeek was an example of that. ChatGPT 4o is an example of that. Grok 3 reasoning is an example of that. So all of these reasoning AI models now need a lot more compute than what we used to
let me stop you there,
because that puts even more load.
Because some people took DeepSeek to mean actually that you need less compute, right? Because the initial report was that they were doing more with less. But you're saying, in fact, some of what came out of DeepSeek was the opposite, that there's going to be more compute demanded. Unpack that for me.
There are 3 phases in how AI works, how AI is developed largely. Number 1 is pre-training. It's kind of like us going through high school. A lot of basic math, basic language, basic everything. That basic understanding of human knowledge is essential to do what's the next step, which is called post-training. In post-training, you might get human feedback. You know, it's like a teacher showing it to you. We call it reinforcement learning, human feedback. You might practice and do thought experiments. You're just preparing for a test. You're doing a whole lot of practices. We call it reinforcement learning, AI feedback. You could either also do tests and practice, and we call it reinforcement learning, verifiable reward feedback. So now basically it's AIs teaching AIs how to be better AIs. That post-training process is where an enormous amount of innovation is happening right now. A lot of it happened with these reasoning models. And that computation load could be 100 times more than pre-training. And then here comes inference, the reasoning process. Instead of just spewing out an answer, when prompted, it reasons about it. It thinks about how best to answer that question, breaks it down step by step, might even reflect upon it, come up with several versions, pick the best one, and then presents it to you. So the amount of computation that we have to do, even at inference time now, is 100 times more than what we used to do when ChatGPT first came out. And so all of a sudden, the combination of all these ideas, largely related to reinforcement learning and synthetic data generation and reasoning, all of this is just causing compute demand to go sky high.
In a surprising twist of expectations, Nvidia's CEO Jensen Huang has went off on a rant that is turning heads and possibly signaling fresh wins for this stock, especially after it has dipped at the news of a volatile economy led by Trump tariffs. We'll unravel the mystery behind his comments and explore why Nvidia might be poised for an unexpected leap, even with the stock suffering as it is now. Welcome back, everyone, to Investocracy.
Everybody is racing to adopt AI. I would say it this way. I would say that, number one, the core technology builders, the model builders, and the companies that are building consumer-oriented AIs, search, recommender systems, music recommendation, video recommendation, all of those product recommendation, all of those types of consumer AI adoption is incredibly fast. The frontier models and all of the startups trying to build a next generation of frontier models, they're racing to get to the next level. Then there's the areas that are developing. We call them agentic AI, almost like a digital workforce. And they're digital marketing people or software engineers that will be agentic. And so that area is developing very nicely, and that's likely to come on next. The next phase after that is what we call physical AI. This is AI that understands the laws of the world, the physical world. It understands things like inertia and gravity and cause and effect and object permanence. And we'll use that for self-driving cars and robotic systems and so on, things of that nature. And so each one of these industries are kind of coming on in waves, and they're all building on top of each other.
Can it help chickens speed up egg production? I mean, we need more eggs at this moment. I mean, as we look at the demand, it's clearly sizzling. But there were reports at least one hyperscaler, that would be Microsoft, was canceling some data center leases. Are you saying you're seeing no trimming or even scaling back planned data center build out right now?
Yeah, what we see is if you look at this year's data center CapEx and you compare it to last year, it's a big, huge growth. And the vast majority of that data center CapEx used to be allocated to general purpose computing, traditional data centers. Mm-hmm. But now going forward, it's going to be used for NVIDIA's accelerated computing and AI type of systems. And so not only is the CapEx larger, the amount of that CapEx dedicated to AI is going to be far greater. And so we're seeing a very robust growth for this year compared to last year. And I think we're teed up for some pretty great build-outs of these data centers to produce essentially what I call AI factories, which in the future will transform energy, if you will, into digital intelligence. And these digital intelligence, we call them tokens, but basically artificial intelligence. Yeah, we've got many years of build-out to go.
The company recorded an impressive $130.5 billion in total revenue for fiscal 2025. Marking a 114% increase from the previous year. Despite Nvidia's impressive performance, concerns peaked with DeepSeek's emergence, alongside President Trump enacting tariffs on the chips trade. Though investors feared a downturn in Nvidia's chip demand, CEO Jensen Huang had a different narrative. His remarks during a recent investor call emphasized a paradigm shift, noting that these advanced AI models may require up to 100 times the computational power compared to their predecessors. But before going on with the video, are you into cryptocurrency? If so, check out our second channel, Investocracy Crypto. We bring you breaking news, expert analysis, and the latest trends in the fast-moving world of digital assets. Whether you're a seasoned crypto investor or just curious about the future of finance, we've got something for you. Click the link in the description to subscribe to Investocracy Crypto now. Don't miss out and stay ahead of the game. Now, let's get back to the video.
I got to ask you about the new chatbot on the block. There are reports that China's DeepSeek is pushing up the launch of R2, its successor to January's really popular R1 chatbot, from May to basically as soon as possible. Do you know if the upcoming DeepSeek model uses NVIDIA chips, which ones, and how concerned are you that cheaper ways to train models might mean fewer sales of your pricier Blackwell chip, which is obviously very popular right now?
DeepSeek is fantastic. And in fact, What DeepSeek has done is it open sourced a new type of state-of-the-art AI model called reasoning models. Reasoning models are basically models that think. Instead of you asking the chatbot a question and it instantly spews out an answer, and it does a really good job doing it, but now the chatbot will break the question down step by step, reason about it. It might produce several different versions of it internally in its head, choose the best answer before it presents it to you. And so it turns out that these reasoning AI models has discovered a new scaling law, and a scaling law says the more compute you apply to thinking, the smarter the answer. And so it's exactly the opposite. What DeepSeek has done is actually opened up a whole new field that consumes an enormous amount of NVIDIA's computing capability. Just about every AI developer has now incorporated either R1 or technologies like R1, chain of thought and reinforcement learning and search and so on, to improve the quality of their answers. And so what really happened is that this new generation of AI models has caused demand to be really high.
Examining the trends proves essential as NVIDIA focuses on scaling its high-demand Blackwell GPUs, which are revolutionizing AI inference with unprecedented speeds. Investors, both institutional giants like Microsoft and Amazon, and private investors with an eye on emerging tech trends, are taking note, with big tech players ready to pour billions into AI infrastructure. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
The Trump administration is working right now. It really wants to further blunt China's technological advancements by, in essence, curbing U.S.-made semiconductor sales, specifically yours. I know you met with President Trump last month. I'm not going to ask you what was said in your private conversation, but did you leave the White House after meeting with him feeling better about NVIDIA's global business, more concerned?
I left the White House with great new relationships, a very clear understanding that the administration is going to work with us to understand the market, to understand ground truth and what is actually happening. Of course, we're committed and very enthusiastic to work with the administration to achieve its goals and want the administration to succeed. The net of it all is if you look at where NVIDIA's computers are that are going to China today, and you compare it against what we just launched this quarter, this record-breaking quarter that we had with Grace Blackwell, the comparison of the technology, anywhere from 20 to 60 times higher performance is what we currently have in the United States. And so that every day that goes by, the export-controlled technology is further and further behind, if you will. In a lot of ways, it's another way of saying every day that goes by, we're making that technology slower and slower.
As we wrap up this deep dive into NVIDIA's stock positioning, the narrative is clear. NVIDIA stands at a crossroads where innovation meets opportunity. Analysts forecast continued growth for NVIDIA, suggesting that the current dip is but a precursor to a soaring future. But what do you think? Share your thoughts. Finally, if you would like to know what companies like NVIDIA have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.